Welcome to the Rolling Stone Studio live at South by Southwest. We are here with a bona fide legend today. We are here with one of the members of the Coup, easily one of the best hip-hop outfits to come out of the Bay Area. We are here with the writer-director behind Sorry to Bother You and the Amazon TV show I'm a Virgo. We're here with a political activist. We are here with a lifelong resident of Oakland, the crown jewel of the Bay Area. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Boots Riley.
Thank you. He said, give it up! No. But you didn't say that also I'm the writer-director of I Love Boosters, which is why we're here today.
Okay, take three. All right, so
Thank you.
Let's set this up for anybody who doesn't know what I Love Boosters is about. We'll just, an elevator pitch.
So my elevator pitch would try to hide a lot of things. But what I would say is that it takes place in the world of professional shoplifting, and it explores fashion, art, and what it takes to make all of those things happen.
I love that is just the tip of the iceberg for anybody coming into this movie. That is a beautiful setup, but it does not even scratch the surface. What you're in for when you get into this.
Here's the thing. I like people to go on a journey. So having been an organizer, I think about when organizers take a group of people on a campaign where they try to win a thing, let's say it's a strike or something like that. What they discover through going there is they discover what side the police are on, all these things. They have an experience that opens up the way they see the world. And so I like going scene to scene in my films. I like it to feel like more of the world is opening up. And you're not only you're seeing more, you're understanding more, and maybe your understanding of the beginning changes.
I think that's a safe bet for this movie. There's some really good world building going on here, and I think that you really need to you have to set up a specific world to build in which name dropping dialectic materialism and having a demon who's an expert in cunnilingus exist in the same world. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but
it is.
Yeah, sorry.
But
that's a very specific sensibility. Yeah. But anybody who's even a casual fan of the Coup knows that this is not the first time these three words in this title have showed up in your back catalog. You have a 2006 song on Build a Bigger Weapon that's called I Love Boosters.
Yeah, on Pick a Bigger Weapon, I have this song that basically comes from a lifetime of experience of trying to get the hookup, and meaning, it also comes from the fact that we get advertised all of these things that look amazing, or we're told look amazing, or that we're told we're told that it's going to make us happy, or whatever, and but they cost way more than we can afford. And so there becomes this underground economy, which is how people get some of the means to express themselves, which is fashion is one way. But I wanted to, and at the time when I made it, and it's still, even now, maybe it's been an uptick in it, people involved in that underground economy are really being villainized, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, what they're doing is technically illegal, but there's a different thing that happens when people are being villainized, which is to say, this is the bane of humanity, and this is what's wrong with the world, and it's used as it's used as a misdirect for what actually is wrong. And it's used as a misdirect to take our attention away from the exploitation that happens to us every day on the job, the exploitation that it takes to make those things that are being stolen.
You call that out in the song. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you say, maybe if this society didn't raise you to think that this is right, keep in mind that there are kids who are, being exploited in other countries so that these businesses can sell these clothes and make a profit. It's the idea that two wrongs don't make a right, but you maybe need to pay attention to all the wrongs that are going on in the bigger picture.
Exactly. And, and the reason why there has to be an illegal economy, that was the impetus for the song. But it was also, at the time, talking about the social position that folks that provide this service in the community have, like that they are, people are like really grateful, right? They know the person, they know Whitney with the laptops that can hook them up with the laptop that they need. They know all these people that can connect them with the things that they need, and it's someone that, if you were to look at it, on an objective level, is someone that actually is in their way doing a part that keeps the community together.
So how do all these ideas end up coalescing into what becomes your sophomore feature? At what point do you start thinking about these things and thinking, I think there's a film here?
It's kind of like when I write lyrics, a lot of times, sometimes I'll sit down to write a song. Sometimes I'll have an idea for a lyric or just a concept for a song. I just write it down, and there's just then I'll sit back and I'll go through my notebooks and look through a lot of bad ideas and find a couple good ones. And this what was just a mental version of that. Like, I did Sorry to Bother You, and I was like thinking about what my next projects were going to be, and thinking about the worlds that I already have created in song, and what would be where some interesting characters and some juxtapositions would be.
I think it's safe to say we live in a pretty divisive time right now, but the one thing that people seem to be able to agree on is that Keke Palmer is a fucking national treasure. Yeah, give it up. So keeping that in mind, did you have her in mind for this lead role? Was this something that you started tailoring the role to her? How'd she come on this?
I wrote the film with characters in mind that don't exist as actors, right? That's kind of what ends up happening. And then I start thinking about who could best embody the role, and meeting with people and talking to them, and when I met with Keke, I was like, oh, she's Corvette, like, so that's where that was at. That's how that came about. I tried not to think about the actor so much when I'm writing it.
Right. You always hear this from filmmakers where they're like, if I'm writing with somebody specific in mind and they can't do it, it's like a heartbreak.
I don't know. I haven't had enough experience doing it to have, written for someone and not get them. So so I could see how that would be the thing. But for me, it's more about how I'm making the story. Like, it's usually like maybe some amalgamation of people I know.
Yeah.
Right. And then of course, once I cast it, then there's a lot of tailoring that goes on. Matter of fact, I'll go back and forth with the actor beforehand, and we'll talk about life experiences and what connects to what that character is going through. And even on set, sometimes there'll be, a lot of times there's a back and forth. Not only will they have questions about what they're supposed to be doing right now and why, but sometimes it'll be like, would I really be saying this right now? How does this, and so there's something that comes from that,
Yeah. It was interesting to hear you say at the premiere last night on stage how you said all these actors are taking a real leap of faith by working with me and going to these weird places. But I would think you got enough proof of concept right now that it would almost be a disappointment if they got involved with a Boots Riley movie and you didn't go to weird places. Like, I would think that's the appeal of doing a project with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think people know what they're getting when they decide they want to work with me.
Yeah.
But I'm saying to even decide to work with me is, that means you're at a place where you're confident, right? Because I will tell you, maybe now it's going to change because this is it, like people's teams will be like, I don't know, what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Especially if there's somebody that's about to, like, you could get the Marvel thing or something like that, right? So that could be a factor. So, I will say this, and I've said this and I won't say who it is, but I'll say this. Everybody who's turned me down regrets it later and tells me that, and or their kids bother them about turning it down, and it's just because I think, that maybe that is bragging, but it's what I write is different than what you think is supposed to. What it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to do. So you have to be confident in yourself to be like, okay, everybody says a movie shouldn't do this and do that. This does. I like it, so I'm gonna do it, right?
And that extends to, I think, most of this film in particular, especially the score. I have a real bugaboo about when films have the quote unquote wrong score, because the score can make or break a movie. I can't think of this movie without thinking about this kind of carnival run off the rails score that you got from Tune Yards. It's pretty perfect for the vibe and the feeling that you're going for. What sort of collaboration? You guys have collaborated before. What kind of communication was going on about this? Or did they just hand you a score and be like, what do you think?
Well, no, all of my film work has been with Tune Yards. Matter of fact, with Sorry to Bother You, when I went into the Sundance Labs, I had no producers. No, I did have producers. I had producers, a script, the title font, and a couple tracks from Tune Yards that they had made to the script. And that made everybody feel like this is a movie, right? And I know that from music. Like, how do you make people feel like something's a thing? And it has to do with all of these little things, like how much of it are you picturing, right? So with I'm a Virgo too. I had the script and I said, boom, here's what it's gonna be. We don't have the deal yet. This is the kind of music we want to go off of. Let's do, and we started back and forth. And with this one, I wasn't even done with the script. I think I sent them the first 20 pages and I was like, okay, and I was vibing a lot off of Costa Rica films and stuff like that. So I was listening to that. I was like, okay, how do we do our version of this? The main, I guess, theme, if you would, that happens a lot in there. That was, we looked at the file and that was like 2021, of that they had made the demo of that. And so we're in constant conversation back and forth. When I'm shooting, I'll play the score to the crew and to the cast to let them know, like, this is what's happening during this time. Or I'll just listen to, when I'm playing something back, I'll listen to the score while I'm there. So it's a huge part of it. It's how I trick people into thinking they like what they see.
I feel duped. I love that you just name-checked Emira Costa Rica, because I feel like a lot of people don't know who this Serbian filmmaker is. What were you watching growing up that helped you form this sensibility that was eventually going to become part of who you are as a filmmaker?
There is an answer to that. There's a lot of things that you could name, like you said, Hanna-Barbera. There's so much of this. A lot of times I had to, say to the studio, it's a live-action cartoon. Right? This is what we're doing. But, I try to let it all like meld in. Like, one thing for music with me is I think I started off, for instance, really started off trying to sound exactly like Ice Cube, right? And luckily, I wasn't skilled enough to do it. Like people are like, nope, don't got it. It's not that. It's this other thing, but it's not that. And then I let a lot more influences that I like into my work because I wasn't trying to just make it sound like this one thing, right? And so for me, I'm okay with wearing my influences on my sleeve, but there's a lot of them. Told Soderbergh, there's a lot of Soderberghian things in this, and he was like, don't say that out loud.
I'm still waiting for Son of Schizopolis. I keep telling him I have a checkbook. I'll underwrite it, man. I want to see that movie so badly.
Yeah. Let's see. I also try to draw from, and this is an old trick that maybe came from early on sampling in hip hop. You try to find the thing that nobody knows about, and then you blah, blah, blah. And so my version of that with film, because cinephiles know about everything, right? So my version of that with film is to find things that I like in other mediums and do a film version of that, right? So it might be, and this is going to sound really pretentious and stuff, but like I do that, like a painting or whatever, but not to make the frame look like that, but like to think about what it makes me feel like. It's not, I don't know if it means I'm doing something new, but it's just my way into making sense of it all.
You've talked about taking this film on a college tour, and you're going everywhere from the University of Alabama to Yale. I kind of feel it's a great idea because you're getting it in front of an audience of like future activists and future policymakers, and probably some future douchebags as well, but that can't be helped. Are you hoping that this movie is going to be a situational accelerator for their kind of political consciousness?
Yes. I mean, the movie, not just because of the college tour, but in general, yes. There's like, something that is kind of corny, like the movie is the device. There's the device. There's a plot device. There's a device. And the movie is that the discussion it creates and the possibilities it puts forward is part of the accelerating the situation, and for me, like going around, taking around, talking about it, coming from performing, like that's the closest to that I get. Like it definitely was disappointing with I'm a Virgo to just have it and have it be out, and then you read stuff on the internet or whatever.
Yeah, but you got it on Amazon. You're taking corporate money and putting something subversive out.
Yeah, but I'm just saying I wasn't able to interact with crowds.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Right? So, that's why I want to be in feature films and theatrical feature films, because I want people to experience it with each other. I mean, that's also why we went very, big with the visuals. Like, I want this to be something that you want to see in the theater. I want the color to be like something that pops in a certain way. So, we went through all of these things to make it's something that really sings when you see it in a big theater with other people. And, and I think that's what, like, more than trying to do a genre, which I don't know what this genre is, or more than trying, even if it's like, I'm not trying to do comedy, I'm just trying to have people to have this experience in this scene, this experience in that scene, and so some of that is laughter, some of that is disgust, some of that is going to be tearful joy, who knows.
Boots Riley, thank you for being here today. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, man.